Welcome everyone to our Answers for You presentation. Today our topic is going to be data management plans. And I'm very, very pleased to have with me Shizhong Shi, data management librarian, associate professor with the Texas A&M Libraries, and really an expert on data management and data management plans. I'm David Hollingsworth. I'm the Director of Professional Development and Outreach at Texas A&M Sponsored Research Services. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Shizhong, and she can introduce herself and go ahead and get into the topics.
Thank you, David. Howdy and welcome to today's workshop. I am Zhihong Xu, the Data Management Librarian at the University Libraries. In today's workshop, we will go over the basic principles of research data management and introduce some data management planning tools. We will also talk about some different requirements of funding agencies. Hopefully, after today's workshop, you would like to develop a data management plan using DMPTool, and most importantly, maintain it through the course of your research. We will talk about the benefits of research data management plan, what is a data management plan, and different requirements of funding agencies. And the main task for today is that we will walk through how to use DMPTool together. So why is data management important? Suppose that you have completed one of your research studies and published a couple of papers to disseminate your research results. Your papers have been cited widely in the research literature by others who have built upon your findings. However, 3 years later, another researcher has accused you of having falsified the data. Do you think you would be able to prove that you had done the work as described? In another word, what should you have done throughout your research study to be able to prove that you had done the work as described? In order to do all of that, we need to have a good data management with our research project. Data management can help us meet funding body grant requirements, reinforce research integrity and reproducibility, increase our research efficiency, and ensure research data and records are accurate, complete, authentic, and reliable. I know how busy researchers are, so you might feel that managing data creates a new burden for you, but actually it will save time and resources for you in the long run. As a matter of fact, we have to do good management as a researcher. Nowadays, grants require data management plans, journals require data sharing. White House has directives about supporting public access to research. And there are also trends towards transparency and openness. So what is a data management plan? Before we define research data management, we need to know what is research data. Yeah, so we can say that there are different formats of research data, like surveys, questionnaires, code books, interview notes, Word document, models and algorithms, lab notebooks, audio and video files, content and content analysis. So it can be numerical information, scientific information, or some other formats. Research data has many different definitions depending on the discipline, and it can include both physical and digital materials. So research data management is about handling research data effectively and appropriately throughout the life of a research project and beyond. Research data management refers to all aspects of creating, storing, sharing, and archiving data, and is an essential aspect of conducting responsible research. Since we are talking about the life of a research project, then what is research data lifecycle? So the research data lifecycle provides a high-level overview of the stages involved in successful management and preservation of data for use and reuse. Multiple versions of the data lifecycle exist with differences across domains or communities. And the data lifecycle has 8 components from plan and collect, assure and describe, preserve and discover, integrate to analyze. Some research activities might use only part of the lifecycle. For instance, a project involving meta-analysis might only focus on the discover, integrate, and analyze steps, while a project focused on primary data collection and analysis might bypass the discover and integrate steps. So not all research projects will go through each stage of the life cycle. In addition, other projects might not follow the linear path depicted here, or multiple revolutions of the cycle might be necessary. As we are dealing with data through the life of a research project, a good data management plan would be essential to the success of a research project. While different funding agencies follow their own format for DMPs, there are typically 5 common key elements to consider when developing a DMP, describing the research data, data standards and metadata, data storage and access, intellectual property and reuse, and publishing data and preservation. The first thing we need to do in our DMP is to describe our data, give a brief description of the data, including any existing data or secondary data that will be used throughout the research project. When describing the data, always consider its content, type, and coverage. For instance, we could ask ourselves how the data will be generated and used in the project, what type of data we will use and create. We recommend to include information about the data type, format, and estimated size of data produced if possible. We understand that we might feel difficult to give accurate estimation of the data size at the beginning of the research project. But according to our research experience, we can have an estimation of our data size. When answering these questions, we recommend you to think of our file formats. We always recommend to use open formats to help preserve documents for the long run. For instance, use text files instead of Word document, and use CSV format instead of Excel. The university libraries have some good resources about file formats and also other information about data management. Then in the data management plan, we need to describe the types of documentation that will accompany the data to help other users understand and reuse it. This should include basic information that will help people to find the data, such as who created or contributed to the data, its title, date of creation, and under what conditions it can be accessed. This documentation is really important. And last summer, we conducted a usability study of Texas Data Repository and found that most of the researchers thought adding or editing metadata overwhelming. We understand that. But if you want your research data to be replicated or reused, this information is really important for people to find your data, access your data, and know how to reuse it. In the data management plan, we also need to consider where data will be stored and how you will control access to the data. Tamu has some very good resources to help you figure this out. The data classification tool can help you determine the appropriate classification for data in your care. The tag selection tool can help you choose the best storage solution for your data. I will copy the data classification tools link in the chat, and I recommend you to use it. So if you click the link. So you will see data classification and research resources. So you can just click start a new data classification report. And then it will ask you a set of questions about student data, health data, research data, financial records, personally identifiable information, and so on. And then it will tell you like what data type your data is. So most often for my research is about education. So it contains students' data. So most often my data will be confidential data. And when you got this classification, and then you answer another set of questions like your data size, whether it contains some sensitive information in your data, and then the system will give you another recommendation, which are those best storage plans for your data. And it will also have a comparison table for you, like which storage plan has some advantages and some disadvantages, so you can compare, so that you can compare. So this is very useful. Then the next step in our DMP is to consider how the data may be reused, decide which data to keep and for how long. Remember to consider any additional effort required to prepare the data for sharing and preservation, such as changing file formats. So we might use Excel when collect the data, but when we want to share the data, we might want to convert the data format from Excel to CSV format. So the last step is about publishing data and data preservation. Consider how datasets that have long-term value will be preserved and curated beyond the lifetime of the grant. Also outline the plans for preparing and documenting data for sharing and archiving. When developing our DMPs, we need to keep fair data principles in mind. Many research organizations have signed up to support the fair data principles. The ultimate goal of FAIR is to optimize the reuse of data, and fair data should therefore be F means findable. Metadata and data should be easy to find for both humans and computers. Machine-readable metadata are essential for automatic discovery of datasets and services. A means accessible. Once the users find the required data, they need to know how they can be accessed. I means interoperable. The data unit need to be integrated with other data. In addition, the data need to interoperate with applications or workflows for analysis, storage, and processing. R means reusable. So metadata and data should be well described so that they can be replicated or combined in different settings. For instance, when providing metadata information about software such as R, we might want to include information about which version we are using and which package we are using for our data analysis, in order to let our R scripts can be checked by the other researchers, and also our data to let our data reusable. So a good DMP can help us to keep our data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Before we navigate how to use DMPTool, I'm handing it over to David.
Thank you, Jihong. You know, while it's certainly good practice to follow those FAIR principles and have your data out there, it's also a requirement of many sponsors. And we're finding that more and more sponsors are requiring a data management plan. And even some that are like American Heart Association and some other nonprofits require that, as well as your federal sponsors. And we're just going to take a few minutes and just touch on a couple of these federal sponsors that we see using this the most. The first one I want to just talk about quickly is the National Science Foundation. And they were really probably one of the first ones to require data management plans and their proposals for just about all of their research proposals. And that goes back to January of 2011. And their requirement is to submit a data management plan no more than 2 pages in length. And it's submitted as part of the supplementary documents. So if you're a PI that is submitted to NSF, I'm sure you're very familiar with that requirement. And I put up there a link. There's a NSF website, dissemination and sharing of research results, data management plan requirements. And just the basics for the data management plan requirements are in the what they call the NSF proposal and award and policies and procedures guide, known as PAPPG. But that just gives a little very brief statement about it. But if you go to this website, there are links to the various directorates, like the engineering directorates, some of the divisions, and they will take you to their sites, and they have each of them have a write-up of what they expect to see in a data management plan. So I would suggest, if you're submitting to NSF and you're not already familiar with what your directorate or division requires, that you would go to that link on their site and read up and see exactly what they're wanting to see from that particular area. And just as a reminder, you know, the data management plan is a requirement of the proposal. And so if it's missing, your proposal is not going to get reviewed by NSF. And they also they expect you know, to follow through on the plan that you submitted in your proposal. So they're going to be looking for updates in that. And when you submit your annual reports or your final reports, they're going to want to see some statements of how you were able to go ahead and put your data out there in some repository where it was able to be accessed by others. When you submit new proposals, if you have previous ones and you're having to put in there results of prior activity, you'll want to end up including previous information on your data management plans from your previous grants. I want to talk about another one here, the Institute for Education Sciences. This is part of the Department of Education. And going back since 2012, they were requiring data management plans with just some of their applications, but they've expanded that now. And for most of theirs, they're requiring data management plans. Now they allow it to be up to 5 pages in length. Again, it's not counted toward the project narrative. And with education, sometimes a lot of their subjects or their types of research may have human subjects or privacy issues. So you just need to be aware of that. You know, you have to de-identify the data so that the individual subjects, you know, cannot be identified. And when I was looking out on their site, I found a good resource out there, a fairly recent one. If you see there, it's referenced March 2022. This document they have out there, Sharing Study Data, a guide for education researchers. And I would certainly suggest, if you're submitting or your research is in that area, take advantage of looking at that guide that they put together to help you in putting together your data management. So Department of Energy, a little bit certainly different than NSF. NSF is pretty standard in what they require across all their directorates as far as a 2-page document, and they're expecting to see that in their proposal. Department of Energy, some of the requirements may vary by the solicitation. So I very much encourage you, just as your SRS proposal administrator will be reading through the solicitation, I encourage you as a researcher to also do that and know exactly what's required. Recently, we've seen some that require the data management plan as part of the proposal. It's submitted with the proposal. Then we've seen other solicitations that say you can wait until you've been given notice of the award, and then you have like 90 days to prepare your data management plan and submit it. So again, you just want to make sure that you know what's required for your particular solicitation. when you publish an article, according to the Department of Energy, it should also indicate how the data can be accessed. So anybody reading that article will know where to go find the data. And with Department of Energy, of course, same as with education, if you've got some personal or privacy type information, you need to make that confidential or de-identify it. But also with Department of Energy, there may be things that are like affect homeland security or economic security. So you just have to be careful on your data as what you can make maybe publicly available and what you have to have some concerns about keeping it private or finding other ways to limit the access to that. Also, for our researchers that are in the ag field, USDA, the National Institutes of Food and Agriculture, are also requiring data management plans. It's limited to 2 pages for research, education, and extension projects. Again, some of their programs may have different standards for the data management plans, and they'll be outlined in the specific request for application. So again, it's always good, don't assume, read through the application and see what the requirements are. So I'll bring us to NIH, which is kind of one of the reasons, the impetus for having this presentation. NIH has had a data sharing policy for a number of years, but it was limited to only certain applications. So starting in 2003, they had a policy, as you can see there, for applications that were 500,000 or more each year in direct cost. So that required it. But just your general R01, if it was under that dollar amount, was not requiring a data management plan. Some other areas, if you were doing research with genomic data, then that would require also a data management plan. And currently, and this is the current policy right now, plans should be included in the resource sharing section of the application. But get ready. We put out some notices in the CPI newsletter and some other on our website, and have sent out some things through our listserv. So we want to make sure that faculty are aware and will be ready when this new NIH policy goes into effect on January the 25th of this coming year, 2023. So you got about 6 months to prepare for that. But for basically all of their research type proposals, your R01s, they're going to require a data management plan now. And as you can see, it applies to all research funded in whole or in part by NIH. That results in the generation of scientific data. And the plan is going to be part of the budget justification section. It's going to be 2 pages or less. And one of the things they put out, NIH is good about, informing the research community ahead of time, which for about the last 2 years, they've been making this known. And over the last year and the last couple of months, they've issued some notices, which went into more detail about what they expected to see in a plan, and also about some of the repositories that could be used, and also about costing. And so I encourage you to go. They've just put up this new website here about a month ago, this sharing, NIH data sharing webpage. And from that, there's links to all this different information. It's got the old policy and the new policy. And I would also encourage you, if you submit to a particular institution or center, go to their website and check and see. Some of these institutions have preferred repositories that they suggest that their researchers put the data in. And so you want to read up on that, before writing your data management plan. And as far as costs go, they do talk about that you can include cost. There's sometimes, storage costs long-term for these repositories. And so you can include that in your proposal budget. Just this week, the Federal Demonstration Partnership was meeting, and they had a working group that they formed with NIH to talk about best practices for putting cost into these into proposals to cover this. Should it be included in the indirect, or should it be a direct cost? And so there'll be more coming out on that probably during the summer. And we'll be sure and pass that information along. So, and our proposal people will be aware of it. So we can give some guidance as far as if you need to actually budget for the storage cost and things like that into your proposal. Okay, now I'm going to turn it back over to Shizhong, and she's going to be talking about the use of the data management tool.
My favorite part. There are some online tools helping you to create your data mining plan. DMPTool is one of them. Another frequently used one is DMP Online, designed by Digital Curation Center. So if you are targeting some European or international grants, you can try DMP Online. So I will copy and paste their link in the chat. In the United States, we use the DMPTool more often. The DMPTool is an online platform guiding data management planning development according to the requirements of specific funding agencies. Texas A&M University researchers log in with our lead ID and passwords. Actually, DMPTool is an open access platform. So even if you leave TAMU, so of course we don't want you to leave Aggiland, but even if that happens, you will still have access to it. But logging through TAMU will give you access to the university resources. Using DMPTool will bring you many benefits. We often talk about that DMP will help us meet requirements of the funding agencies, but for me, DMP will help me manage my data and also my research project more efficiently and effectively. It will bring tremendous benefits for my research. So now we will have the full navigation of the DMPTool. Can you all see? So if you go to DMPTool, so I think first you need to sign in with our lead ID. So if this is your first time to use DMPTool, I want you to go with me together so that I will give you just a couple of minutes to log in to the website. I will give you the DMPTool website in the chat. So if we click the button Create Plans, it will lead you to your new plan. So I am using one of my research project, a meta-analysis about self-regulated learning as an example today. I'm sorry, so there's some problems and we are fixing it. Texas A&M University. So founder, since this is an education, so I will just put IES there, United States Department of Education, and then create plan. The first thing you need to do is the project details. There we need to fill out the project abstract, research domain, project start and end date, and funding status. So on the right, you could see that DMPTool, if you are logging in through the net ID and your password, so you will see DMPTool guidance and also Texas A&M guidance are already added by default. So this ensures you that you will see step-by-step guidance specifically for TAMU researchers as you write your plans. Optionally, you can add some other guidance by say the full list. For example, I knew that Purdue University did a pretty good job in data management plan, and so I just want to include them. So and then I save. So depending on which grant you are targeting, the DMPTool will provide you the customized guidance through different modules. So the first thing is project abstract. So I will just put this meta analysis examined the efficacy of SRL interventions on academic achievement in online or blended education across childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. So for research domain, I would just select education science. Since this is just a test, I will just put today's date as project date, start date, and choose whatever date it will be end. So under funding status, you can choose planned or funded. So if it is already funded, you can add your grant number, and then you click save. So on the second type, it is you can add your collaborators for the project. You can give them different permissions as co-owner, editor, or read only. And then we come to the most important part, write plans. So here you will see an expandable section for each topic covered in your plan. We can click the plus to see guidance and enter text. On the right, so you will see you have access to all of your guidance, like TAMU and DMPTool, and just now we choose Purdue. And because this DMP is based on the IES template, so you will also have access to IES guidance. And then the second column, your collaborators can provide you the comments to your data management plan. So since we are chosen IES, so you will see we need to cover 9 sections in this stage. According to which funding agencies you are chosen, DMPTool will give you different guidance. I think DMPTool covered most of the major funding agencies right now. I especially like NIH forthcoming 2023 guidance. So if we go, let's go to have a look at it. So the NIH one. So if we are chosen NIH, so you would say, like for each of the section, the DMPTool guidance even provided you example answer to all of these sections. So I would recommend you to have a look at it, even though you might not target NIH. When you have, when you look at all of those example answers, I think it will give you some ideas on what could include, like here, like the data type. So this project will produce what data, what format of data from what instruments. So this could be like a statement to address any of the DMP for any funding agency, I think, as long as when you are providing answers to the data format, to the data type, data format. So if we go back to our IES plan, so type of data. So this is a secondary data analysis. So I will just put this study will generate data from previous studies based on the coding schema, which will be stored in CSV format. So here in the guidance, so you will have access to the TAMU guidance. As just now, I've already copy and pasted the recommended file formats. So in the TAMU guidance, you could also have access to it. So procedures for managing privacy and confidentiality, since this is a secondary data analysis, so I will just put NA here. For roles and responsibilities. So remember, this is about the data management plan. So for the roles and responsibilities, it is more about the role and the responsibilities through the research data lifecycle. For example, we need to state clearly if there is a data manager for the project. And we need to define the key roles of the DMP, data management planning teams, like who is responsible for data collection, who is responsible for data analysis, data storage and data sharing, and who's responsible for data quality control. If this is a multi-investigator project, what are the responsibilities for all of the collaborators? For this project, I will just put PI will be responsible for overall project management and coordination. So I can also add like graduate assistant will be responsible for the data coding. And PI will also perform the crucial task of data management by storing and preserving the data properly. And then expected schedule for data sharing. I will just put the data will be shared to public immediately when the related publications are released. The data will remain accessible for 5 years. And then format of the data set. So sometimes the sections in the DMP template will have some overlapping questions. I would recommend when you have finished all of those sections from DMPTool, so you can organize all of those information and then put your own data management plan. You can do some organizations. And here I will just put the Philo data set will be in CSV format. And then documentation to be provided. A coding, I would put, since this is secondary data, so a coding scheme about the data analysis and the search protocol will be stored and preserved in the TDR, Texas Data Repository, in TXT format. A figure about the search and the screening process will be stored and preserved in PDF format. And then method of data sharing. So if you, as David said just now, so some funding agencies might have their preferred data repository they want you to share your data with. I think it's really depend on the researchers to decide like which data repository you might want to use. So there are some disciplinary data repository we can use. For this project, I would just use Texas Data Repository. So if you are choosing Texas Data Repository, so we even have the Texas Data Repository template language in the guidance. So if you click Texas Data Repository template language, so you can just copy this paragraph in your research project, and of course, make some revisions according to your own research project. So you can use this as an example here, if you are using Texas Data Repository, and then data sharing agreement. And also the last two questions about those confidential data. So for this project, it would be NA, but as David already mentioned, so I think even though the funding agencies, they are encouraging you to share your data with public, but they also understand there are some sensitive information or some information that we cannot share with the public. So as long as we provide the justification, for example, I can put here, subject identifiers cannot be adequately removed from all interview transcripts. So selected de-identified sections will be shared upon request. As long as you made some justifications, how you want to share your data, so that should be fine. So this is all for the white plan stage. When you finish all of those sections, so you will go to the research outputs. On this page, so we will be able to add any of our research outputs from our research projects. So we might create a new software from our research, or we might have come with a data paper. So you can add whatever with your research output. So we can select the data repository, and also we can define the associated license for specific outputs through license selector. We can also flag whether our data contains sensitive data or personally identifiable information on this page. And then, so you can request feedback to your DMP on this page. And the Research Data Management Services team at Tamu Library will try to get back to you within 2 business days. I know that a lot of researchers will leave DMP as the last step to write their proposal. We don't recommend that for sure. We did receive requests about providing feedback to DMPs just like maybe 2 hours before the proposal due. We will try to serve you better, but we also need more time to provide excellent feedback. We also know that DMPs are getting more and more important. We have seen some proposals not funded, and one of the reasons is the DMP. So we really recommend that we can work on our DMP from the start of the research project. Believe me, there will be tremendous benefits. And then when we finish all of this, we can, the DMP tool gives us options to download our plan as PDF or text or Word document so that we can edit in in our Word document. So when you completed all of these sections of your plan, you can publish. You can, I can just choose private, so only our research team could have access to my DMP. So when you are ready to share your DMP, so you can set it as public or organization. If you like, when you finish, so you can get this plan registered. So if you finish like more than 50% of the questions in the DMP, and you are ready to publish it, so we can get a DMP ID. So when you register our plan, DMPTool can generate a DMP ID. This will create a comprehensive research identity for the researchers. Right now, researchers can obtain our DMP IDs, connect our DMP ID with our founder registry IDs and their ORCID account. So we can also register for research data repository and the license in DMPTool. After receiving a DMP ID, so DMPTool will generate a DMP landing page that includes high-level details about the plan. So this is example of the DMP ID landing page. So from here, we can see our research project's title, contributors, project details, funding status, and our project description and planned outputs. When we finished our DMP, we can always come to your dashboard. We can always just come here to edit it. So you can do it anytime. So if you want to make any changes to your data management plan, and we know that happens. So that's all.
Trying to see how to get back to that NIH plan.
So if you go to my dashboard, so of course, so because I already chose NIH forthcoming 2023. So if you create plan, so here, you just put NIH. And then we need to choose, thank you, Sheila. So we need to choose forthcoming 2023.
Right.
So if you choose forthcoming 2023, and then your DMP will just be based on the forthcoming 2023 template. So when you are going to the right plan, this plan is based on the NIH forthcoming 2023 template.
Very good. I think that answered the questions. So we're, I guess, at the end. If anybody has questions, though, you can unmute and ask them, or you could ask them through the chat. I think you made a good comment, Shihong, that with this new NIH requirement being effective in January, we want to encourage researchers not to wait. Well, there's really no reason to wait till like they're preparing their application to start working on the data management plan. I mean, that's something that they could go ahead and create now, and they could always go in and I'm assuming edit it or update it later on. And this way, I know you guys are going to be really busy, and if everybody waits till close to December or January, it's probably going to be a backlog as far as having your group review and give some comments on their plans. So is that, I guess, like you're saying, suggested that they go ahead and maybe start working on it this summer?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I saw another question. So can we please share the links? I think if you go to the DMPTool, and as I showed just now, so if you just click the TAMU guidance, So actually, the Talmud guidance has all of the links I provided here. For example, in the data type section, so we have added the recommended file formats. Oh, DMPTool, of course. Yeah, I saw one question about the data storage.
Okay.
So can you see my screen now? So
Yes.
for data classification and research resources, so if you start a new classification, so it will ask you a set of questions. Is your data regulated under existing law or framework? So I will just choose no. Do you have student data? Yes. Do you have health data? No. Do you have research data? Yes. And my research data is about IRB managed research or human subject data. So do you have finance records? No. Do you have data with sensitive personal information? Yes. Controlled and classified information? No. Do you have government classified or other similarly restricted data? No. And also business? No. No. So here we will get our reports, our results, our data classification is a confidential data. So you can save your report and save and continue. So when you save your report, you should be able to receive an email about your data classification. And then you will be on this page. It will ask you some other questions. And here on the right side are the resources available for Talmud researchers. So is any of your confidential data PHI? Yes. Who will you collaborate with on your project? So I would like to collaborate across the university and with external collaborators. And my data size is not big. Do you need backups? Yes, but I can wait. Do you have very high performance or parallel process needs? No. Does your contract require your data to be stored on premise? And then you can save your report. And if you submit, so you will receive an email. The email will show you the report, like what storage plan they are recommending you. So usually they will give you a list of choice. And then you can go to that report to compare the advantages and disadvantages of each platform, and then you can make your choice.